we doing, Gridiron fans? We're almost to the halfway point of the season. That means it's time for teams to kick it into high gear. Our crew bounced around to the best matchups of the night, and it's all coming up next
on Gridiron Glory! Whoa!
Welcome back to the set of Gridiron Glory. I'm your host, Danny Dean, back under center. Tonight, Nelsonville York came out with a chip on their shoulder against River Valley after going 0-6 in the Ohio last year. And two historic rivals faced off. Athens hit the road for Albany to take on Alexander. Quarterback Dylan Dupler got banged up last week, but tonight he returned to the field for Sheridan as they faced John Glenn. And we hit up two games in the hockeying. The undefeated Southern Tornadoes played with a vengeance against Miller, and the Wahama White Falcons hosted Belpre. Zane, Trace, and Unioto kicked off SVC play. The Pioneers coming off a big win and look to keep that success rolling in Week 4. But let's kick it off with the TVC Ohio. It was a 3-horse race last season in the TVC Ohio, but heading into conference play tonight, Coach Jared Sparling and the River Valley Raiders are the only team with an undefeated record in the conference. TVC Ohio reporter Clay Benjamin joins me now. And Clay, this River Valley game is starting to become a tradition with NY.
Danny, this is the third straight season in which Nelsonville York and River Valley kicked off TVC Ohio play against one another. But after starting the season 3-0 against teams that are combined 1-8, the Raiders face their biggest test of the season so far tonight against the Buckeyes. Now, head coach Jared Sparling trying to get his team to go 4-0 for the second straight season, but they got off to a bad start. On the fourth play of the game, Nelsonville York's Alex Mount goes untouched, goes 66 yards to the house. It only took them 1 minute and 54 seconds to score, 7-0 early in the first quarter, and the Buckeyes are just getting started. On their next drive, Mount takes the handoff again, gets outside, and once he does, he gets it all the way 48 yards up the field, and he's pushed out of bounds at the 10-yard line, and the Buckeyes are deep in Raider territory, knocking on the door again. The Raider defense would hold strong, though, as they hold him to a field goal as Garrett Maiden drills this 34-yard field goal, 10-0 Nelsonville York, middle of the first quarter, and the Buckeyes are controlling the game at this point. On the next drive, Mount gets outside, picks up 18 yards on the play, but this drive also ends with a field goal, 16-0 River Valley, and the Raiders are 16-0 Nelsonville York, The River Valley trying to get something going on offense. Patrick Brown is swallowed up by the Nelsonville York defense. That's one of 4 sacks in the first half and one of 8 on the night for the Buckeyes. Hunter Edwards rolls to his left. He finds Keegan Wilbur in the end zone for the 20-yard touchdown. 20-0 Nelsonville York going into the locker room, and they would hold on to win 46-6, becoming the first TVC school to win its 200th football game.
Wow, so NY winning that big 200th game in program history, and they did it by dominating on offense. Tell me a little bit more about how they did it, Clay.
Danny, it was their three-headed attack of Hunter Edwards, Alex Mount, and Noah Andrews. The Buckeyes came out on fire, and they didn't let off the gas pedal. River Valley had no answer for Alex Mount. He straight bossed it tonight. The Raiders spent most of their time on defense looking at the back of his jersey. He had 168 yards rushing and 1 touchdown in the first half alone. The Buckeyes offense put up 322 yards of total offense in the first half, and only 87 of those were through the air. The Buckeye running game just could not be stopped.
A great night for Nelsonville York on offense, but their defense, hey, they had a great night too.
First-year head coach Rusty Richards is going to be sleeping easy tonight. He couldn't have dreamt of a better game for his team. The NY defense had 8 sacks and 1 interception on the night. The Buckeyes were relentless, and the defense gave the Raiders 0 room to operate. Coach Sparling told me this week that NY was going to be physical, and that is exactly what they got tonight, only holding the Raiders to 6 points.
With the loss, there are no more undefeated teams left in the TVC Ohio, and the Buckeyes improved to 4-1 in their 5 games against River Valley. What went wrong for the Raiders tonight?
The Raiders just couldn't get anything going, Danny. The Buckeye defense shut them down from the beginning, and the Buckeye offense kept putting up the points. But despite the loss, everyone here at Gridiron Glory wants to congratulate Jared Sparling and his wife. Their second child, a son named Kenton, was born last Saturday, and we want to wish them all the best.
I'll definitely wish them the best. Can't wait to see, hopefully, Kenton on the sidelines this season. Thanks a lot, Clay. And just like the players put in work every week to be on top of their game on Friday night, the Gridiron crew works to make sure you have all your midweek content, because you have to be ready for the best day of the week, too. Head over to woub.org/gridiron. On our site, see game previews, predictions, features, video chats, and more. Also, check us out on YouTube. Just search WOUB PBS. The Megs Marauders are coming off a second-place finish in the TVC Ohio last season and have been building off that momentum. The Marauder program is a tight-knit group, and Nick Mullins joins me with the inside story.
Danny, this team isn't just an ordinary team. Head coach Mike Bartram isn't just a coach. He's a dad to two players, Cody and Zach Bartram. Cody's a senior quarterback and Zach a sophomore wide receiver. Cody, however, will possibly be out the rest of the season with a broken foot. This team will need to be stronger and closer than ever.
The Marauders have stormed into the season with dad and coach Mike Bartram at the helm. With help from his sons, Zach and Cody, the Bartrams have been able to create a family atmosphere within Megs football.
We tell each other we love each other, before, after every practice, in the locker room. We tell, that's one of our breakdowns, love you, and they'll say love you. And we'll say it's not what happens in your life, and they'll say it's how you deal with it.
The ability to coach your sons is a dream for any dad.
So these kids, even though they might not think it, they motivate me in what they do.
It's what every brother dreams of, the ability to play alongside each other.
I've really dreamed of being able to play with my older brother since I've been really small. And
it's really cool that I get to play with my brother. I've been throwing routes in the backyard ever since we were little, probably second and third grade out there throwing, not knowing what we were doing, just having fun. When he messes up, I let him know about it most of the time, but only make him better. Tear him down and then try to bring him back up.
Don't let that father-son connection fool you. Coach Bartram wants nothing to do with that.
When we come to the school or we come to the field house, weight room, practice field, game field, it's Coach. It's Coach Bartram. It's not Dad, and it never will be.
The important bond between this family really helps out Marauders football.
After 3 or 4 years of being on the same page, we think alike on most stuff, so that makes it nice. Just having that relationship with your coach/dad.
We can't forget quite possibly the most important person within a family.
Mom's the rock of our family and helps out a lot with Megs football.
It was great to be able to catch up with the Bartrams. Coach Bartram is an ex-NFL player, and he has definitely instilled great values within this team. The Marauders look to continue the success and expectations they have created within this family that is Megs football.
Well, it must be a sweet life for Zach and Cody having dad as the coach. It seems like the Marauders are in good hands with the Bartram family. It's a tough road ahead without Cody, but we can't underestimate the power of a football family. Thanks a lot, Nick. It's a scientific fact that Mondays are tough, but we have something to make the day a lot better. The Gridiron Glory newsletter is just the cure for the Monday blues. It includes a list of games we're heading to, and of course, what our next game of the week will be. It has conference standings and the top highlight from one of our games. It's not too late to subscribe. Just send us an email to gridiron@woub.org to get on the list. Now over to the MVL, where the John Glenn Little Muskies visited the Sheridan Generals to fight back to a 500 record. Reporter Connor Martin joins me on desk to let us know how that rivalry played out.
And a rivalry game it was, Danny. John Glenn entered tonight's game with a chip on its shoulder, playing the role of Sheridan's little brother for the past 10 years. The Generals are 8-10 against the Little Muskies over that span, and we're hoping to add another win to that column after tonight's matchup. And here they are getting pumped up before the game. And after forcing John Glenn into a 3-and-out on their first possession, the Generals were looking to attack early. Dylan Dupler went for it all on his second pass of the game, but fell just short. And on the very next play, Casey Smith intercepted Dupler, and he says, "Thank you very much for that gift. I guess Christmas came early." And the whole entire team was getting pumped up, and that pick set up a long drive for John Glenn. And when they converted a 4th down as Matthew Stewart connects with Gavin Thompson. And that just kept the drive alive because the very next play, Stewart then threw a complete dime to Casey Smith to put the Little Muskies up 7-0. Dupler then led his team down the field in under 2 minutes, finishing off the drive with a 26-yard strike to Mike Giddings. And that touchdown there pulled them in within 7 and just gave the entire stadium that electric feeling that the Sheridan Generals were back in this game. And after a 64-yard pass up the sideline, Stewart put another thread of the needle again, but this time to Jake Radcliffe, and put them up 14-7. And both teams scored with the ball on the next possession, but they went over and right there, 4th down conversion, weren't able to get it, and they go into the halftime up 14-7. And really, the Sheridan Generals dominated the second half, scoring 35 straight points and taking this game 42-14.
I mean, 35 points in the second half. That's seriously impressive, but I know Dylan Dupler, he was coming off an injury, so how is he looking tonight for Sheridan?
Well, Danny, Dupler did not look like his normal self when he took the field to start tonight's game. Now, that's not to say that Dupler played poorly in the first half. He just was not as electric as he usually is. He was unable to break away from that big run, and besides that 26-yard touchdown pass to Giddings, almost all of his completions were under 10 yards. The Generals' entire offense was unable to do much of anything in the first 2 quarters, only able to manage 7 points before halftime.
Well, not very much production in that first half, and I know unfortunately you guys had to leave to get back here before all that second half action, but what can you tell me? I know the pieces finally fell together for Sheridan and they ran away with it.
You are absolutely correct, Danny. Not only did the pieces just fall together in the second half, but they completed the puzzle. I mean, it might as well have been a completely different game. Dylan Dupler exploded in the second half, racking up 4 rushing touchdowns and added 1 through the air. The opposite can be said for John Glenn and Matthew Stewart. Stewart started off on fire, completing 8 of his first passes, 2 of which went for touchdowns, but John Glenn was unable to put up a single point on the board in the second half. Now, the Little Huskies fall to 1-3 after tonight and have the tough task of welcoming the Philo Electrics next Friday. The Electrics are off to a great start to the season, sitting at 3-1. On the other hand, the Generals are sitting pretty at 3-1 and look to take on the 2-2 Morgans next week.
Well, we'll see if they can get it done against the Morgans. Thanks a lot, Connor. And the halfway point of the season is creeping closer. Your online host, Eric Threet, is here to tell us what players to put on your watch list.
It's wild how close the halfway point is coming up. We'll be predicting playoff teams here in a couple weeks, but it was week 1 in the NFL. Vets like Matt Forte and DeMarco Murray had strong performances debuting on a new team. That didn't surprise anybody. Carson Wentz, Will Fuller, the rookies who stepped up, caught my eye. So I wanted to check out the young talent we have in our coverage. So let's see who put in work. Sliding in at number 3 is Kyron Howell of the Warren Warriors. Kyron is a sophomore left tackle and defensive tackle entering his 2nd year on varsity. The big boys never get any love. Now, it's all about the pancakes. Now, a pancake is when a player knocks another player on their behind, and this young buck stays eating. He knows everyone's assignment and is responsible for O-line shifts. You'll also see him clogging up the middle on the D-line. Kyron recorded a safety in the 65-0 beating Warren delivered last week. Next up, straight out of Trimble is sophomore Max Hooper. Big baller shot caller. He does it all for the Tomcats. 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns receiving, a touchdown rushing, a touchdown through the air, a pick 6. He's the kicker. What else do you want him to do? His versatility as a 10th grader will be key for Trimble this season and in the years to come. But the youngin' at number 1, Mr. Jacob Campbell, River Valley's very own, a sophomore running back linebacker that is all power. 5 rushing touchdowns already before tonight on 4.2 yards per carry. That's too much sauce. I called Coach Sparling. He put me on speakerphone, and I asked the team, who can tackle this man? You know what I heard? Dead air. Nothing. 2-way player, touchdown machine, number 1, Jacob Campbell. Danny, that's all I got for you.
Well, I love that you highlight the players on the rise. Thanks a lot, Eric. And if you miss your boy, Eric, when the show is over, you can still catch him during the week on our Facebook Live. If you watched this past week, you saw Eric and 2 of our reporters get into a strong debate about which Tri-Valley Conference is more dominant, the Hawking or the Ohio. And when you tune into our live show or tune into our Facebook Live, make sure to stream comments and we will try to answer your questions, and our reporters will be right there to be on top of it. And like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at Gridiron Glory to see when our next Facebook Live session is happening. Now on desk for Extra Points is Joseph Payton to talk Wahama Belpre. And Joseph, the White Falcons were looking to bounce back this week.
That's right, Danny. After 2 straight losses at the hands of Waterford 2 weeks ago and Southern last week, the White Falcons are looking for answers to get back in the win column. And tonight, they hope to find those answers at home against Belpre. But Belpre wasn't going to be an easy win for the White Falcons. Tajay Reams returned the opening kickoff 75 yards for a touchdown to give Belpre an early lead, but Wahama, they stayed calm. The White Falcons regrouped and managed to tie the ball game at 14-14 and take that score into halftime. However, after taking the lead 20-14 by scoring the first touchdown of the second half, the White Falcons couldn't stop Dejon Bedgood and Tajay Reams as Belpre. They would go on to win this one 28-20, Danny.
Well, despite that loss for Wahama, do you think that they took anything away from tonight's game?
Oh, for sure, Danny. I think they learned that they can run the ball successfully. Running backs Wyatt Edwards and Colton Arrington were very solid in running the ball tonight. Edwards scored 2 touchdowns in the first half, and then Arrington punched it in the end zone to start the third quarter. Last week against Southern, Wahama was unsuccessful in establishing that running game, but tonight they were really getting some solid yardage on the ground. And I think that success on the ground tonight, despite the loss, is something that they can take away from this game moving forward.
Well, thanks for giving us some solid Hawking analysis. Now let's move over to Haley Hronowich. You were out at Miller and Southern's matchup.
Well, Danny, last year they lost to Miller pretty badly, but this year they weren't about to let that happen again. They were not about to let that happen again for sure. When they were undefeated 3-0 so far, the Southern Tornadoes came out tonight hungry for revenge, and even better, their 4th straight win this season. Southern set the tone of the game from the very start. Great Tornado defense had Miller scrambling to try and get that first down. Their opening play was the only first down Miller would see in that very first possession. Southern was quick to stop them. Dakota Cowell knocks the ball right down, forcing Miller to punt the ball away to the 35. And Southern quarterback Blake Johnson and number 10 Ike Akers were ready for it. Johnson does what he does best, sees the open gap, and runs with it to the 44-yard line. But Akers wasn't feeling like being patient tonight. Not even a minute into Southern's first possession, and Akers scores a 44-yard touchdown, putting the Tornadoes up 7-0. Now, unfortunately, after the first scoring drive, the lights went out on the field and caused a 20-minute delay, but Southern did not let that adversity faze them. Riley Roush went on to score a 78-yard touchdown. Johnson followed with a 2-yard score after stopping Miller on downs at the 15, and it was the Jalen Blank show again tonight. Blanks had 4 carries for just 75 yards on that drive. Roush scored again after 3 straight carries from the 15, and Southern went on to go up 28-0 at the end of the half. Southern won the game 41-0 and were led by Johnson with 186 yards. He had 2 passing touchdowns of 78 and 44 yards and 1 rushing 2-yard touchdown. So Danny, currently undefeated, Southern is looking pretty good in the TVC hockey this year.
Oh yeah, they're definitely looking great. Seeing them undefeated 4 games in. Great work, Haley. And it makes my day when GG fans reach out to me on Twitter. Tonight I have to give a special shout out to the Unioto student section. They hit the road to cheer on the Sherman Tanks, and they let me know via Twitter that they were going to be rowdy for our Fan of the Week crew. Make sure to give me a follow on Twitter at gghost_Danny. Next week, your tweet could be featured on our show. Athens and Alexander have both experienced success in recent years, so what better way to start off conference play than watching these 2 teams battle it out? Reporter Josh Gregory was out in Albany. So, Josh, were the Spartans able to defend their conference dominance?
Danny, even though conference play just started, this is arguably the biggest game of the season for both teams. There was more on the line than just bragging rights because a win for either team could pave the way to a TVC Ohio crown. The Alexander Spartans had one thing on their mind tonight, taking the Dogs back to the pound, but the Bulldogs had a lot to say about that. The Spartans met a ferocious Bulldog defense on their first drive. A.J. Marks goes down for a loss of 1, so Alexander forced a punt, but wait, the snap goes too high, and just like that, Athens goes up 2-0, and they get the ball. It's 4th and 18 for the Bulldogs, but quarterback Brendan Sano keeps the drive alive on a 19-yard connection with Andy Costaville. So big break for Athens, right? Wrong. Marks would strip the ball from Sano and take it to the house, putting the Spartans up 7-2 in the first. But Athens isn't going to let that faze them. Sano caps off this 85-yard drive to reclaim the lead. 8-7 is your score early in the second half. Athens with another opportunity, but A.J. Marks stops this one. He swats down Sano's pass to force a turnover on downs, and he's not done. 2 plays later, he gets his offense moving and slings a deep pass to his main man, Chase Harris. He's turning on the burners, 53 yards to the house, and Alexander goes up 13-8. Athens, they were right on their tail. Not even a minute later, Sano launches a deep pass to his receiver, Robert Dickelman. This ends Athens up 14-13, going into the locker rooms. And even though it was close in the first half, Athens really pulled away with this one. 35-19 is your score tonight, Danny, and they're going to move on to 1-0 in conference play.
Wow, Josh, that is a big conference win for Athens tonight. Who knows, maybe they'll be the new TVC Ohio top dog this year, but they were underdogs going into this one. So, Josh, how were they able to pull off this win?
It's no surprise that that Bulldog defense is a huge weapon, but what really made the difference tonight was Brendan Sano's play as quarterback. Going into tonight, he had 264 passing yards and 2 touchdowns from Athens' game against Watkins Memorial. and he definitely kept that momentum from that game going into tonight. He had a dominant passing game in the first half, converting on some big fourth downs and capitalizing in the red zone. But another weapon the Bulldogs had on offense was running back Michael Castile, taking the handoffs. His ground and pound game racked up many first downs for the Bulldogs. He had 63 rushing yards in the first half, so it's safe to say that Athens' rushing attack was very strong tonight, Danny.
Well, with that strong O-line, strong quarterback, and strong running backs, it's no surprise that the Spartan defense was outmatched. So how did their offense handle this strong defense?
Danny, you've heard his name plenty of times tonight, but A.J. Marks. He had 332 total rushing yards going into this game. He's the centerpiece of the Spartan attack, posing a dual threat in the air and on the ground. He led the Spartans in the first half with 103 passing yards, and each of those connections was to Chase Harris. Those two really kept Alexander strong in the first half, but ultimately, that strong play Marks brought in the first half did not continue into the second half. Athens, on the other hand, just kept digging deeper and playing harder. You have to be able to play a full game of football at this point in the season, Danny. The Spartans have been unable to do that for the past 3 games now, and it's going to make another run at the TVC Ohio Crown a lot harder. Whereas the Bulldogs, they're sitting pretty after taking down arguably one of their strongest conference rivals, and they're going to carry this momentum into their second conference game next week against Vinton County.
Well, yeah, if Athens keeps this momentum and this hard play rolling, they could definitely take the TVC Ohio. Thanks a lot, Josh. And it's no secret that the rivalry between Zane Trace and Unioto is fierce. Tonight, tensions were high on the field and in the stands. That's why Chillicothe was the next stop on the tour to find the best fans Ohio has to offer.
So, what do you think makes Zane Trace so awesome? They just have a lot of confidence in what they do, and I think heart and skill every day.
Can I get Go Zane Trace on 3, 2, 1. Go Zane Trace! Yes! All right. The bar has been set. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Go These guys, Chad, Aaron, and Danny, they came out here with their homemade flags. They've been out here for, what, how many years, you said?
Still sucking down.
So I got to give it to them. You're this week's, all 3 of you, fan of the week. Last season, Zane Trace marched into Unioto and shut out the Sherman Tanks in a 63-0 victory. This time around, it was Unioto's turn to hit the road for this highly anticipated rematch. When it comes to rivalries in the Scioto Valley Conference, the first thing that comes to mind is Zane Trace and Unioto. The Pioneers have the Sherman's number, all of one, but 5 times in the last 5 years. So Justin, did Zane Trace continue its dominance over Unioto?
Danny, you mentioned Zane Trace's dominance, and that was especially true last year when they went on the road and destroyed Unioto 63-0. This time, Zane Trace was at home with the chance to beat down their rivals once again, while the Shermans were looking to improve to 3-1 this season. And Zane Trace continued their dominance in the banner game. This one says, you think you're going to win? Now that's what I call fantasy football. But Unioto makes them pay early as Austin Harris throws this interception on the first possession of the game. But guess what? The Pioneers come right back and give the Shermans a taste of their own medicine when Eli Kars tips the pass, which falls into the hands of Cross Schaefer, who takes it all the way to the end zone, 7-0 Zane Trace, with 5 minutes and 30 seconds left in the very first quarter. And Unioto responds with a big defensive play of its own as Cameron Bryce gets the sack on 3rd and 5. It was a big play because their defense got a huge stop right there. And the Pioneers finally get the offense going with a little luck here as the ball gets tipped into the hands of Darby Pillow, who picks up a 20-yard gain. And from there, it was the Austin Harris show.
He's out here breaking ankles, putting people on skates, and guess what? He's plowing them over too. 10-yard gain to the 14-yard line. He finishes the drive at the with a 5-yard touchdown, putting his team up 14-0 with 4:25 left in the half. And the offense wasn't working for the Shermans, so Clay Edler said, guess what? I'm not just a quarterback. He scoops up the ensuing kickoff on the 9-yard line, and just watch that man run. He gets his speed going, kicks it into a second gear, avoids that tackle, takes it into the end zone, 91 yards, 14-7. Great touchdown as they try to get back in this one, but Harris says, I see your touchdown, and I raise you one. He uses some explosiveness of his own, takes a run 57 yards to pay dirt, and caps it off with a 2-point conversion, making it 22-7, and Unioto adds a touchdown before the end of the half to make it 22-14, but in the end, Zane Trace was too much as they go on to win 36-20.
What a great win for Zane Trace, especially over their rivals. But Justin, it looked like Austin Harris, he was the difference maker again tonight.
Well, there's no doubt about it, Danny. After a slow first quarter, he really took this game over and showed his ability to run. It all started with a 9-play drive that took just over 2 minutes and ended with Harris in the end zone for the first offensive touchdown of the game. From there, he settled in and picked apart the Unioto defense. He went on to add that 57-yard touchdown before the half and kept that momentum going. He finished the game with 244 total yards, more than 200 yards rushing, and 4 touchdowns.
Great game from Harris. So how did the defense for the Pioneers hold on to this one, Justin?
You know, they really impressed me, Danny. Zane Trace kept the Shermans out of the end zone until 1 minute and 24 seconds left until the end of the first half. Before that, the Pioneers got a pick six, forced a turnover on downs with Unioto just outside the red zone, and stuffed a majority of the Shermans' rushing attempts and added another interception.
Well, again, what a great win from Zane Trace. So what do you see from these teams going forward?
Well, for starters, Austin Harris had more than 200 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns, so that stands out the most. He benefited from the defense, though, which had 2 interceptions and gave up only 58 yards rushing. For the Shermans, Clay Edler said had a solid performance. He threw 100 yards and returned that 91-yard kickoff return for a touchdown and really kept his team in the game. But like I said, Zane Trace was just too much tonight.
Oh, definitely. And Austin Harris, somebody we should keep an eye out for. Thanks a lot, Justin. And we can't end our show without rolling out the top plays of the night, so let's get things started. Number 3 on the night, coming out from Bidwell from River Valley's game against NY. Raiders trying to get it going, but Clay Cook, he reaches out for a one-handed interception. And on to number 2 in Sheridan, John Glenn's quarterback, Matthew Stewart, slings it towards the house. Casey Smith there makes a diving catch, 24-yard touchdown. And for our top play of the night, Clay Edler, Unioto's quarterback, kickoff returner. You just heard about him. He was waiting deep. The Sherman Tanks had fire push them tonight. Look at him. He looks like he has rockets strapped to his shoes. He takes it all the way to a house, saucing those Zane Trace defenders for that 91-yard kickoff return touchdown. And that's all we have for you tonight. We're already looking forward to Week 5. Be sure to join us next week right here on WOUB. Until then, I'm your host, Danny Dean, and don't forget, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.